Okay, guys, we are back. This is the 4th podcast of the week.
Wow. There I was thinking I was the first.
I'm really sorry. I'm special.
Shunt it to the end of the week.
Yeah, you are. I'm sorry. I had a month break and then I'm now suddenly put 4 in 1 week. So we have Tony from the Platform Project today. So I'm actually here at the Platform Project as opposed to Tony visiting me at home. So I've just had a walk around to get a real feel for the place. I've come in completely blind, don't know anything about the Platform Project. So Tony is here to talk a little bit about it and about why he works here and why he does what he does. So hi, Tony.
Hi.
Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Wherever you want to start, really.
I guess so. The first thing to probably start with is my name.
Yes.
So I'm going to throw something in there. So my real name is Kim.
Is it?
Yeah, you look shocked. Yeah, my middle name is Anthony. And so, as you said, we were talking about the project and why I do the things that I do, but also, the project as a whole. My name is Kim Anthony. And as a child growing up in the 70s and 80s, I had long hair.
Yeah.
And so with the name Kim came the obvious taunts of, oh, you're a girl, all of that sort of stuff. So when I changed schools, I changed it. Only my family have only called me Kim.
Yeah.
So anything that I do that's kind of legal, like with my training and stuff like that, then I'll use my name.
Yeah.
So I answered to both.
Oh, excellent.
So I answered to both. Yeah, all of my family and a couple of close friends still call me Kim, but so I just wanted to put that. So there's a little insight.
No, but because then it's that stigma attached to with bullying and name calling and how that made you feel, really.
I think when you said about doing what I did, I found school really tough for a whole host of reasons, and that was just one thing that I could control. Yeah. And manage. Yeah. Is like not have that. Lots of my friends did know that, and it was confusing for the friends that I was at primary school. And they come in, it's like, you're Tony? He's like, yeah. School was really difficult for me. You asked about, why I do what I do, and I loved learning. But at times, trying to control things, that was the only thing that I could control, was how I reacted in school to being told. There's a part of me that doesn't like being told what to do, right? And that's been there sometimes. A bit of defiance,
yeah.
A bit of defiance, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
So I struggled with that. There are certain everybody's got a story about a teacher that they absolutely adore, right? And ones that they just do not like, 100%. And for a whole host of reasons. Yeah. And for me, and I'm sure it's the same for many other people, is there were certain teachers that saw me. Yeah. That really took time. What is going on with you? Rather than detention, go to my office. That's where I would react. I would push back against that. So I've always aligned with some of the young people that do get in trouble in school or outside of school. And I've always been really passionate about young people. And it's kind of how I met Sadie, who is the founder and the CEO of the Platform Project. We were both volunteer mentors at Smash.
Okay, yes.
So how long ago was this? I think it was like 2000. It was 2008, 2009. I think we were both there. And we didn't really know each other. And we were introduced via our line manager, who was line managers. Yeah. And Sadie had asked her, do you know any mentors that might be interested in helping with this project, which was the Platform Project. It wasn't called the Platform. That was just an idea that she had about offering entrepreneurial-based skills to young people in a different format. And the line manager came to me, and back then I tend to do this a lot. So I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll get involved. And we had a conversation, and then we didn't catch up for life and all the rest of it. It was a couple of 2 or 3 years, and then it was it 2016, I think we spoke, and then she was looking to start the following year. And it started off, the first one was in the old town hall up behind Savanac Street Park. I don't know if the park's still there anymore, is it? Is the park still there? I used to go there as a kid, that dragon slide that used to be there. Yes. Yeah, so, and Sadie literally went and picked them all up, brought them to the hall, and we worked with them there for the whole week. So she picked them up, dropped them off. Buy McDonald's, KFC, all of that sort of stuff for lunch. And it was really successful. Yeah. And it just started kind of snowballed from there. And then within a couple of years, we got our space over at the back of Dorking here, so right round the back. I can never remember what that place was called. It wasn't as nice as this building. You know, the ceiling tiles were a little bit stained, the doors didn't work properly, but it was a start. And predominantly we were working with not in education, employment and training up until COVID, and then COVID hit, and obviously the world changed.
Yeah.
And so I was a youth worker then, so I was being paid as a youth worker, but I because it was originally more of an educational based program, you know, with the needs. It wasn't education. I called it education. I wanted to work more therapeutically, so I kind of drifted off. I went off to work at an organisation in Bristol called NAOS, a therapeutic organisation, which was really invaluable for me, of just working in a really therapeutic way, which in one way lots of people do already. They just don't call it therapeutic work, right? They don't have that terminology. Lots of people are doing that. But to have that kind of grounding and kind of skill set around me, there's lots of therapists around me working in different modalities, which is what inspired me to train as a psychotherapist myself. And then I was having a conversation with Sadie, and I had an office upstairs in the building, and she said, you know, we've got this young person really struggling can't sit in the group, would you come and do some mentoring? And so that's how the mentoring side kind of started off. And so there was only me, myself, and my colleague Dan, who were like the original kind of mentors. And that part of the organisation has snowballed along with the Engage programme, which is our alternative provision for, as I said earlier, for secondary, into a Boost programme, which is for not in education, employment and training. We have Aspire, which is a post-16 programme. And then we have Discover, which is our tutoring programme as well. And so the organisation is growing and growing and growing. And I think one of the things that I really like about our organisation is sometimes we do get the most challenging clients. And I'm sure that happens for a lot of them, but you know, I enjoy that work.
I feel the same. If I'm drawn to that. You know, when you can see someone really needs that support.
And I think you know, I think the hardest part of this job is when you can see the ability in someone, but yet they can't see it themselves. And you know, you can't. Whenever young people come here, or whenever I've mentored, it's like I get it. I'm another adult that's coming in telling you we're not going to leave, we're not going to do this, we're not. And our work is therapeutic from the mentoring across the organisation, but specifically more in the mentoring side. It's long term. You know, we work for 6 months to a year to 18 months to 2 years.
I was going to ask how long. Because a lot of things that can be like 6 weeks, 12 weeks, and that's just not enough. No. And it's like the work. You know, it's called therapeutic mentoring, but you know. I'm not going to say this because I get told off saying this. I'm not going to say I find the work easy, but I like that. It's for some mentors, it comes incredibly naturally to work in that way. Sometimes it can be really difficult. But for me, a large percentage of the work is relational. You can know all of the techniques and all the ways, but if you can't relate to that young person, you've got nothing. 100%.
And so that's, for me, that is the work. And so that's what we look for when we're employing staff and mentors. You know, it is that, can you relate to a young person? And so I'm, you know, a massive advocate of looking after my staff as well, of just like, you know, for the mentoring side, they have a clinical supervision, so outside of our organisation, so they have one-to-ones with me, but also with a clinical supervisor outside the organisation, because some of the work is really complex. And we're dealing with, you know, generational stuff out there in the community. Well, the community are dealing with that. That's first and foremost. We're being invited in to kind of support, and if you know, family wants that also as well. Sometimes families don't want that for a whole host of reasons. And again, that can be really difficult. You know, Swindon is now it's always been but even more so now. And so it's. It can be challenging, but it can be so rewarding. And, you know, as a mentor, and I still speak as a mentor, yes, I'm the manager, but, you know, it's a privilege. We're taking the most prized possession. The thing that's worth the most to that family, we're taking them out, but they're trusting us. You know, so we don't take that lightly. You know, even when they come here, right, it's like, actually, we're going to look after your children, right? And sometimes that can be challenging for a whole host of reasons. They don't want to be here. They don't want to engage. They don't want to talk. You know, some of the best sessions I've done is where we haven't done a lot of talking. What do you want to listen to? You know, put music on Spotify, and you know, that can give you a insight to where a young person is. Yeah. What they're listening to.
What they're listening to. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think all of those things are really great. You know, children are always communicating even when they're not.
Yeah.
They think, well, if I don't talk to you, you don't know nothing.
No.
Like, well, actually, yes.
I can see a lot. Yeah. I always say you don't have to talk to me if you don't want to, but because I take the demand away, then they do talk a lot of the time.
And that's what this work is.
Yeah.
We're not teachers. We're not here to tell them what to do. If telling them what to do worked, they wouldn't be here.
No. Exactly.
You know, they just wouldn't be here. So I think, you know, looking at them, how they come in all different shapes and sizes, and like I said, I'm really passionate about primary, and so that's something over the last sort of like 2 years that we've been working towards, and we have got a primary offer for the Engage on certain days starting this year. But you know, when I first started this work, it was normally being a man, or you work with the boys. There was more boys, and it was more behaviour, SEMH, and then we just see the numbers shifted towards girls. Yeah. That was a little bit more equal, and now you're definitely seeing that shifting down the ages and starting to see that in primary.
Yes.
And that's, you know, for me, that's really worrying. Primary should be, you know, there's that unique sound of when you walk past a primary school of them playing outside. Yeah. That sounds like happiness to me, right? And for that experience at primary not to be happy, I think is a reflection of our society, and you know, something that we should all be paying attention to. Because school should be a thing. It's something that we can't replicate. Is peer relationships. You know, that's how children learn the most, is being outside, and so much of our world is sanitized. Play especially, you know, you go to a play park, it's rubberized, it's, you know, you can't break anything for obvious reasons, I get it, but like we used to have the adventure playground here at Richard Jeffries many moons ago, and that's the first time I ever went on a zip wire. You know, there wasn't no harness, right? You climb trees, or you know, all of those kind of risks are being removed. And I'm not saying I want children to fall and break their arms or anything like that, but like that's where they understand risk, and that's such a vital thing that doesn't happen in a lot of schools. You know, some schools have really good policies for play in playgrounds. You know, where there's tires and there's things, and they can run around. And sometimes, you know, a child will pick a tire up and throw it at someone, but you know, that's managed. It's, you know, whereas everything, you know, as soon as they get into secondary, it's very, football's over here, this is over here. It's all very separate, and when you go into adolescence, that's how you start to feel, right? Yes. I'm not like that group over there. I'm not like, and you're trying to find your tribe. Yeah. And it can be really, really difficult.
100%, yeah.
So yeah, I think you know, play is a huge thing of what we do here, and some young people can't play. And for me, that's really sad. Yeah. You know, their imagination. It's kind of given them for a device. You know, rather than
exploring for themselves.
Exploring and kind of creating, and you know, whenever I've done anything creative, through my adult life, you know, I studied film and photography 20 years ago with my colleague Jamie, who we met in Reading, and she now works here as well. I found the best work I did when I didn't have the equipment to do it. I had to think around the problem and be creative. A lot of the times when I've got the equipment, I'm kind of scratching my... It doesn't feel as kind of creative and in the flow when you've got to think around a problem. And you can get around problems now in an instant, right? You can open your phone and chat to AI. And it's there. So yeah, I think there are a lot of... potential issues. It sounds like I'm being negative. I hope it's not coming across that way.
No, not at all.
But I think, you know,
the world's very different, isn't it? So when we grew up, and having those comparisons is important, because you know, you're looking at how that affects today's generation. Yeah.
So I think that, you know, play is important, but children aren't outside for a whole host of reasons, and where is safe if you're a parent? Unless it's directly outside your door and you know the people in your community, Where is safe? And there's not many spaces that are safe in the town anymore.
Yeah. That's sad.
That is sad, and when I say that, I mean, like, from if your child's 7 or 8, you don't really want them out of your street, right?
No.
Whereas I was 7 or 8, I used to walk to school.
Yeah.
And I'd be round a couple of streets round. I wouldn't be too far, but
no.
And it has changed society. I know society has changed. Whether that's for the better or not, I don't know. Only time will tell. But the challenges that education system is finding now are proving that something's not right. Something is not right for children, and a wise person. I don't know where he got it from. He said he got it from somewhere else. He said to me, when men needed to be unionised, they fought to get that, and when women needed the right to vote, they fought for that. Or children are fighting and they're telling us and we're not listening.
Yes.
And so that's really kind of like stayed with me, is that, the children are telling us, they can't verbalise, this isn't working for me. They're showing us in how they're responding to certain aspects of the education system. I'm not demeaning teachers. They do an incredibly difficult job.
Yeah.
An incredibly difficult and sometimes really challenging circumstances, I think. But I
think it'd be interesting with our new Prime Minister as well, and what changes are coming. Just reading little bits, coming in talking about education and what changes are going to be made. So it'd just be interesting to see what happens next with things.
You look at certain models around the world of education. I don't know which Scandinavian country it is, but I watched it on a documentary once where they do like 3 hours of actual study per day, but the rest of the time is play and creating and science and putting things together. And that's what kids have to do, right? Yeah. It's like an allowing that, and their emotional well-being, their mental health, their education and grades are up.
Yes.
And yet we're testing. What is it now? Two into nursery.
Yeah.
It's
and the expectation of what they have to achieve.
And the expectation of what it should be for the collective rather than the individual.
Yeah.
So it's and I think individual work only comes from experimenting and playing. Yeah. Or being in small groups.
Yeah.
This sheet and tick box exercise. So unless he changes that, I'm not too sure. But I think that technology does have some. It's a double-edged sword, right? There is the negative side, but there is also
there's the benefits.
There's the benefits of it.
Yeah.
That they that they've got access to people really, really quickly. They can share ideas really, really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that comes from developers that are looking to maximise profit.
Yeah.
And it's keeping people on devices, isn't it? That's the balance. And so maybe our illustrious leader will can bring in some legislation for app developers for education. Where it's not about keeping people on the screen for as much time as possible. It's for that. But there's hopefully things will change, and I think they will. Until that point, that's why there are many alternative provisions like ourselves across the town and across the county. There are many doing some fabulous work. So
we're all doing our bit.
Yes. Yeah. Well, in one sense, that is the village looking after the community, right?
Yeah. And I think with having this podcast as well, like, obviously, hopefully you can come to one of our meetups, but having that community of all of us on the podcast and we're all meeting each other and sharing ideas and using each other's services and telling other people about those services, that's a big thing as well. So we've all got a little square, but then we've grown it into something bigger, which is...
Yeah, like I said, I just, I'm really, like everybody, right? We work with young people for a reason.
Yes.
We've all got our own story that brings us to the door.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? And whether that's through the education system, family life, socially, culturally, or a combination of them all, it's unique to us and it's brought us to that point. And that's the same for any young person that walks through the door. It's unique. Yeah. And it's about finding that uniqueness and helping them understand that they are unique. Some of them don't. No. Some of them don't. Yeah. And finding a voice, and that's what I like about the project here, is that, there are so many ways of being creative. It's not, we don't just do one thing. Yeah. If you can find your voice in a way that you can express yourself, you might not be able to talk, it might be anxiety or whatever, right? But you can express that through art or poetry or creating or designing something. That's their communication. That's how they're meeting the world. And so it's exploring that and then giving them the skills to and encouraging them to do that. And like I said, unfortunately, the education system works in one specific way.
Have you had anybody come back, so go off and work and maybe come back and become a mentor themselves?
So we haven't had anybody that's a mentor, and the reason being is obviously they're very young, still teenagers. And I think sometimes it can be quite difficult to be a teenager, to come back and work with teenagers. It's not to say that it can't happen. But we have had we had two people that were in our project pre-COVID and through COVID that were actually employed here.
Oh, amazing.
And so one left this year to move on to other things. So, that's really important to us. But ultimately what we want them to do is we want them to go away and just go and be who you need to be in the world.
Thrive.
Right? It's like going, it's one of the hardest things about being a mentor is you might work with someone. I worked with somebody not in Swindon, but I worked with him. He was 6 when I met him. And I worked with him for 18 months, 4 days a week. And he was at risk of permanent exclusion. And we're trying to test him to go into different schools, and it just wasn't working. And then we supported Mum doing some work, and then the work started to move. And how many humans are good at endings, right? This is the hard thing, right? About and I remember going to my line manager and saying, I don't know how to end this. I'm feeling really anxious. I don't like endings. Spent 18 months with this. I'm invested. We're invested in each other. And he taught me a lot. He taught me, I feel quite, the hairs on my arms down. He taught me a lot. I talk about him a lot. I haven't seen him for 3.5, 4 years. There's a part of me that always wants to phone his mum and just say, hey, how's he doing? But he taught me a lot about being a small child in a difficult community. And a parent that had struggled in the education system themselves, and then being invited in, and there being how they saw it as problems, was incredibly difficult for them. And it was unseen. I didn't see it, and until we saw it. But he taught me a lot, and what I realised is, he was the youngest child of a few, and he was around adults. So while he wasn't at school, he's consuming adult talk. So he wanted to be big. He was 6. He wanted to be. He just wanted to get straight to 18, right? And so he could talk at an adult, and it wasn't until one day we were in a play park, and I'd have to be really close to him because he'd be quite aggressive, and playing with another child, and he started to sing this song from a horror movie.
Oh my God.
And the child went, I don't know what you're talking about, and just walked off, and he got so angry. And I realised in that moment, he's trying to communicate from an adult to another 5 or 6 year old. It's not going to work.
No.
So there was a lot of work around showing him age appropriate stuff and talking, and how to talk to that. And over a period of time, he started to do that. And so it really informed my work of again, we're an adult, I've got to be really mindful of what we do. And I climbed trees, I skipped stones with him. This wasn't about going trampolining or anything like that. We did a lot of play, which at times was absolutely exhausting, I gotta be honest. Climbed trees, and I always use this example. We were in a park, it was in Bristol, and it was packed. It was summer, it was packed full of families. And we used to do this thing about we'd dare each other, it'd be like, I dare you to climb the tree, or dare. And he went, shout out, I'm an idiot. So I went, I'm an idiot. He just died. He just completely died. He couldn't believe I'd done it, right? We were both smiling for sort of 10 minutes. I was like, I can't believe you just did that.
You dared me.
And it was just, there was something in, are you prepared to play? Are you prepared to come down? Are you prepared to be seen? Are you prepared to play with those kind of things that, I'm going to be seen by everybody in the park by shouting, I'm an idiot, right? So, there may not have been things I would have done maybe with someone older, but with him, it just felt, absolutely appropriate to do it. And I still hold he holds a special place in my heart. But the the ending, we talked about it, we planned it for a number of weeks, built up to it, and like had a little calendar of things that we were going to do on our sessions.
Yeah.
And I remember driving him back, and I look at him, and he's crying, and I'm crying. And he went, my eyes are leaking, and I burst into tears.
Oh.
You know, and you know, you're supposed to say professionally, so I love you, and I said I love you back. Oh. You know, and so it's, it was. I'm a human being.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. I'm a human being, and you know that's what I look for when we employ mentors. Is can you relate?
Yeah.
You know, that's it. You can learn about working this way or that way, and understand all of the things that might draw a young person in. But if you can't relate to them, you've got nothing.
No.
And it's not relating in a way that I deem to be good or bad. It's can you relate in your way? Can you be authentic? You know, because a child will see straight through you if you're lying to them, right?
Yes.
They know.
Yeah.
He knew when I was tired. He could tell just by the way I walked out of the car.
Yeah. Body language.
Yeah, it was just like, you know, you're tired, aren't you? Yeah, I am. And, you know, that was, again, a really important thing. So he knew, safety-wise, I'm tired. What would you like to do today? Well, he'd say, well, I want to go and run and play and jump and all the rest of that. Oh, my God. Yeah, okay. And other times he'd say, well, can we just go chill by the water, or can we go get an ice cream? So we'll say, you know, there wasn't ice cream. But, you know, so it is about that relationship. It is about that. And it is working with the family. That's something that we're massively passionate about, is working with families. Is, you know, the systems around them, social care, the education system, you know, local authority, all of those types of systems, they're all wrapped up in language. Yeah. And unless you know the words to get access to what you need, it's a hard battle. You've got to be tough and committed and stubborn. And, you know, that's why where we met, you know, at the SEND meeting, those parents, they fought hard. Yeah. That's a hard fought battle to get to wherever they're at the moment, right? That's incredibly difficult. Yeah. And, you know, if we can offer support in that, you know, supporting a parent, and, you know, it might not necessarily be in the legal route, because there are lots of great organisations that do those sorts of things, but, you know, emotional support, you know, there might be something else going on in the home, financially, or anything, you know, it's like...
Well, and that's the thing, because sometimes they might have worked with people, but maybe felt judged. So if you meet them, like you said, meet a child where they are, but you meet the parent where they are as well.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, it's really important. It's relational, right? It's like, you know, or they see you as an expert. Yeah. That happens a lot. And you've also got to be mindful of that as adults, right? With children. Yeah. There's a power dynamic there, straight away. Yeah. Straight away. Yeah. You know, not just about the age, but the way you talk. Yeah. The way you present yourselves, the clothes you wear, you know, all of these are factors that specifically on the mentoring we will look at. Yeah. You know, when we go into homes, of like, you know, how is that home? How's that home set up? You know, and not to offer anything that's judgmental. We're not there we're not there to judge. No. First and foremost, we're there for the child, but if we can support the family holistically, you know, as a unit, then we absolutely will do that. And
just breaking it down, isn't it? And just wanting to build a trusting relationship.
Yeah, and that happens. You know, that young person I was talking about, it took months for Mum to trust me. Months. She'd just open the door, head would pop out, and then shut it. I'll get him, and he'd come and push him out the door. Yeah. It took months to get in there. Yeah. You know, and you know, we've done. You know, I've made beds, I've painted fences, I've painted walls, I've hung doors, I've hung a TV on the wall. You know, I've gone into a home where social services purchased the bed, and it was a mum who had mental health issues with 4 children. I was working with one of the children in there, and the beds were in boxes. And they'd been there for 2 weeks. I'm like, can you make... She's like, I don't know how to do it. So, you know, I ended up building the beds. But it's like... That always reminded me, I don't know if you've seen the film with Adrian Brody, the pianist.
I know what you mean. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, and when he finally finds this big tin of food, he hasn't got a tin opener. So he's got what he needs, but he doesn't have access to it. And there's these children's beds, but they're in a box. And no one thought, oh, well, do you know what, I should make those. Yeah. And so that's where, you know, it shouldn't be our role to do that. But, you know, ultimately... Yeah. That needs to happen, you know. You need to. I don't know. I don't want to be judgmental. So I've got to be really mindful. But no. You know, it's those edges where families fall off. Yeah. You know, so if we can support and that's appropriate, then absolutely, we will do that. I think. And, you know, some children are in horrific situations.
Yeah.
You know, we don't just work. Our referrals come from, you know, from all different places. We've looked after children as well. You know, they've been through a care system which is, you know, difficult and challenging. You know, and you know that's why I'm a massive advocate. And I know it's not the same, but the rejection of being rejected from your school, in your community, you're different. Instantly, it's a huge label to hang around a child's neck. You know, I understand why schools have to do it. And, you know, and it's not a quick process. But for me, that's what needs to change. Yeah. You know, I have no influence over that, how that changes. No. Or I haven't found a way that I can influence that. Maybe is probably a better way of framing it. But there's no, that's a huge thing. You're just saying that child in that community is no longer a part of it. Yeah. Because all their peers will probably be still at that school, right? Yeah. Their close friends, maybe even family members, and then you're saying they can't come on site. They're done. Yeah. I just feel that what that does to not to all. Let me be really clear. Sometimes going to another school is the making of a child. Yeah. But for many, you know, they may have been excluded or managed moves or whatever it be to another school when it's not worked out. Rejection it's huge. Yeah. And as an adolescent, that's, you know, for all of us that have lived through adolescence, right, that's a tough time. Yeah. You got no idea where you're going. You just know that you don't like that at the moment. Yeah. You might like it tomorrow. Yeah. But you don't like it. So I think it's it's a really tricky time, and then to tell them that they're not wanted. I know we're not telling them that that's how it's perceived.
Yeah, of course, that's how it lands with a child.
Yeah. It is. And you know, we hear lots here from lots of young people that come here. I know I can't sit still in class, but I'm not bad. Yeah. But that's what they've been told.
Yeah, that's the message that's coming through to them. Yeah. Yeah.
That there's something wrong with them. Yeah. That they can't sit still. Yeah. Or that they're disruptive. You know. So it's and I read something years ago, isn't it, about neurodiverse children in their education lifetime are more they hear more negative comments. I think it's about 50,000 more negative comments than a neurotypical child. So you imagine that. Stop. Yeah. You know, don't do that. Go and sit over there. Stand up. Yes. Be straight. Stop talking. Stop, moving. Yeah. Stop fidgeting. Stop tapping the table. You know, all of these sorts of things, which are in one sense almost an innocuous comment. Yeah. By just trying to get the whole class into thinking, but that has an impact.
It does. I've just done a course actually on how to manage ADHD in the classroom, and the language you use, and rather than keep saying stop doing that, it's like say, oh, did you realise you're doing that at the moment? Would it be okay if perhaps I can give you this instead? And just maybe diverting them if it's an irritating thing for you, but rather than just coming out with don't do that. You know, it's changing the language and.
Well, it's also the same as PDA, right?
Yeah.
That's changed. The acronym's changed, isn't it? I can't remember what it's changed to. It's not called PDA anymore. But you know, that's one of the challenges we find here is like sometimes we'll get children that are referred in that haven't left the home for a long period of time, and we're not talking like weeks, we're talking months and sometimes years. Yeah. And then it's like, they have a diagnosis of PDA. Okay, so if they're not coming out of their room, how do we try and offer them something without it being seen as a demand? As a demand, and that's really, really tricky. And it is about the language that you use. It's about leaving something for everybody, not just the individual. You know, and trying to invite that way. And it's more inclusive language, isn't it? That we're saying it's, if you like this, it's here. But to everybody, not just to the one person. So, you know, that can be, you know, and that's not them being defiant, right? No. That's that's their body shutting down. It's like, actually, for whatever reason, anxious, or I don't feel safe. I need to overwhelm. I need to control what's going on for me. I'm not doing it. You know, I'm not doing it. And so, you know, that can become really difficult when someone completely withdraws. You know, and you know, we've had mentors that have worked with young people that are on autistic burnout that can't even wear clothes in the home. You know, that burnt out. You know, so it's, you know, our work, and that's what I love about it is, you know, sometimes it can be really, really slow. It's like just going round and they're not engaging. They may sit with you for 5 or 10 minutes, and then we'll spend time with parents or siblings or whatever. And then it's just that gentle building.
We play the long game.
Play the long game, and that's what it takes, right?
Yeah.
It's if talking it into them worked,
Yeah.
we wouldn't be here, right?
No, I know.
You know, no one would be
Yeah.
setting these things up, right?
Yeah.
So it's really going back to, again, you can't do anything without without relations, for us.
Yeah.
You know, you need to be in relation to someone to help, support.
That's what it comes back to, isn't it?
Comes back to, yeah. So I think, you know, it's... yeah, and I think, you know, if I think about that, I just realise I'm talking about that, but I'll talk a little bit about my story. You know, I struggled in school, really, really struggled in school. And not because I was stupid, although I'm sure there's a couple of teachers that will... you know, and speaking of a teacher, I remember him. So if anybody's listening to someone I went to school with, you know, Mr. Collins, his name was. He was a human biology teacher.
Is it Commonwealth you went to?
No, I went to Churchfields.
Oh, okay.
So I went to Churchfields.
Yeah.
And he used to have an overhead projector, so everything was written out on it, and he just used to just sit there and kind of push it, and your hand would be aching where you were trying, because he wouldn't push it, he wouldn't pull it back, you'd have to write it down. So there's no real learning in a sense, and we're just, you know. And it was probably 1991, so 2 years, I'm showing my age, I'm telling my age now, 2 years after I left school, I saw him up in Marlborough, the Marlborough Mop.
Yes.
And I remember him, he went to me, all right, and he said, I thought you'd be dead by now. And you know what, I'm still talking about it now at 53.
I've got my mouth open.
Yeah. But like, yeah, it was like, I wish I would have told him to politely go somewhere else. But I didn't.
Why, you probably shocked?
Yeah, well, yeah, but it still has an impact on me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, again, you know, things have moved on since then, but like, you hope that all the teachers understand the impact that they do have on children. You know, of just the power. This is what I'm saying. There is a power dynamic there. Even now, when I see some of my old teachers, right, I still call them sir.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
All right, sir.
You're right, sir. You're like miss.
Yeah.
You know, just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't seen any for 5-10 years. But I remember that my last one where I didn't like RE. I hated religious education, so I used to have to sit. I said I don't want to do it, so I sit outside the class. So I sat outside the class. I did something else. Mm-hmm. And I remember seeing her in the bank, and I said, "Oh, how's it going? You still teach her?" "No, I left years ago." And she said, "You know," I said, I said it wasn't because of students like me. She said, "Oh no, I'd have taken you because you went and sat outside the classroom."
Yeah.
It's the ones that they're not going to do anything. They're belligerent, and don't get me wrong, I could be belligerent as well and say things I didn't mean, but I just didn't want to do RE. So, and again, that's the defiant bit, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just not doing that.
Yeah.
I am not going to do that.
Yeah.
And so I think that, you know, teachers have a really significant impact on. I've had teachers where I would have run through a wall for them. Absolutely, yeah. He's my old English teacher, Mr. Glasby. He's passed now, but I would have run through a wall for that man.
And you got ultimate, just utmost respect for them.
Yeah.
And then there's ones that, I can tell you a few stories about a few teachers I've had that are horrendous.
Yeah.
Horrendous things that went on, even in primary, just, oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah, and I just think, you know, you run around a primary playground as a child, right, and the world feels really small, exciting.
Yeah.
You're not really thinking too far ahead.
No, you're in a little bubble.
You're in a little bubble, and then you kind of leave school, and as you go through age, you start seeing people that you went to school with taking potentially wrong paths, different paths, death, illness. You know, a lot of people that I went to school with through drugs, alcohol, and suicide are not here. Yeah. You know, and it's kind of like I think I reflect on that a lot of like, you know, where does it change? At what point, you know, what was their turning point? What was there, or was there no turning point? You know, I still don't have an answer for it, but it is something I look at, you know, throughout my career, wherever I've worked. You know, my own younger brother took his life 21 years ago, you know, after alcohol and drug problems. You know, and I'm happy to talk about that, and I always have been. You know, and we could describe myself and my brother. I would always not talk straight away. I'd go off and stomp my feet and come back and then have a cuddle and then talk it out. My brother wouldn't. And so I don't think that was not because he didn't want to. I don't think he knew how to express himself.
Yeah.
You know, and it's devastating when someone takes their life. It normally happens towards Christmas, right? You hear more of it. It happens throughout the year, but it does tend to happen around that time of year. Is when my brother did it as well, and a few other people I know have taken their life. But it's that, I wrestled for months of like, what was my brother thinking?
Yeah.
Could I have stopped him? Could I have said anything? And then I got to a stage of like, even if I'd have seen him that night and I could have stopped and talked to him and just told him I loved him, and then I would have let him go, like somehow I would have let him go and do it. It's like you kind of try and rationalise really, really difficult.
It's a lot of feelings, isn't it? I'm sure confusion and anger and sadness, and there's a lot to unpick for you.
Yeah, I think for anybody that suffered that, it does become something you understand intimately, and you resonate when somebody else has lost someone through that. Especially if it's a sibling.
Yeah.
It's an incredibly difficult space to be in, and grief is complicated, right? It's not linear. It's not. Again, humans, right? There was a start and an end point.
Yeah.
We might find it a little bit easier, right?
Yeah, if we knew we were going to get to there and it was all going to be fine.
Yeah, it doesn't work like that. And whenever I talk about grief, grief for me was like, that I can't fit, like a merry-go-round on the fairground, where the horses go up and down, right? And you're on it, and that's life, right? It's ups and downs and round and round. And all of a sudden something happens that everybody gets off. The merry-go-round goes on, right? And then one by one I stood there and I watched people get back on, and I couldn't get back on it. No matter how hard I tried, I wanted to be back on there. I wanted to forget. I wanted to be, in inverted commas, normal, whatever the hell that is. And I couldn't do it. And that was the painful part,
And how old were you when you...
I was 33, and my brother was just 2 weeks after his 30th birthday.
Okay.
So, and it's, I've lost friends to a good friend when I was at school, was stabbed and killed. And his brother committed suicide 4 years before my brother did. Losing a friend. 1 minute I'm down the arcade arguing with him and playing games, video games, and then 5 p.m. he's gone. So it's I think that's a really, really hard thing, is for that we didn't really talk back in the 80s, right? You didn't really.
What was mental health?
Yeah,
there wasn't
a thing.
There wasn't a word.
There wasn't a thing, and I just kind of I used to talk to him. That was my thing. I talked to him. I said, I'm going to talk to you, and so I don't know whether that helped or not. I'm not specific. I'm not particularly religious, but I understand why people are, and I'd say I'm more spiritual, and I do believe that that spirit moves on. So that was my way, I think, of coping with that, and I think that that those things are really impactful, and you don't realise the impact they've had until sometimes way later on, and just for your child to go out, leave home one day and not come home. God forbid, I've got 3 children. I don't ever want that to happen, right? And I don't think any parent does, but it is that's, I guess that's where I've always loved being around people. Yeah. And I'm interested in people. I love talking to people. Not all. Some people I can walk away from. Yeah. And I'm sure some can walk away from me too, but it's we're not all supposed to get on, or there are things that we don't resonate with each other, or different ideas, or ways of being. But I think I love being around people. I love playing. I'm still a child in that sense. Yeah. I kind of taken what teachers say. When are you going to grow up? Never.
No, Peter Pan.
Yeah. No, why? Yeah. Well, yeah. Why should I? Yeah. Why? It's something that parents. It's really interesting. Of kind of like in my training, we've been doing some stuff around play and stuff, and when I first started, it's you've got a room of 20 people, and it's all they're all adults. Like, oh God, I've got to dance in front of all these people, right? I normally dance when I've had a drink, right? Yeah. And but stick my child next to me or a grandchild next to me, and I'll do it any way you like. Yeah. But it's that as an adult being exposed. Yeah. And I think that's what I was saying earlier. It's social media has impacted that shame of like someone could video you and then it's out there.
Yeah.
It's never coming back.
Yeah.
And I think that's had a massive impact on society today. But thankfully that wasn't when I was a teenager or in my early 20s. Just a couple of photographs.
Yeah,
just photographs that were taken by friends. But I think that's a huge thing of the whole shame thing.
Yeah.
It's there. It's really there. Name and shame, and you see it on. I'm not really on social media, but it's name and shame.
Yeah.
Get them out there, and it's like I'm not sure whether that's the right way we should be headed. I understand why people want to do it.
Yeah.
I do understand the motivation behind it, but I'm not sure that's where we need to be as a community.
No.
But I think adults need to learn how to relax and play a little bit more, and I include myself. 100%. I could do that more.
I use a lot of humour in my sessions.
Yeah.
Because obviously the amount of children I'm seeing, they come in with anxiety, anger, or whatever it might be, so they're going to be quite serious. So I use a lot of humour.
Yeah, and I think humour's important. It's something that I get bantered a lot by the young people, and you're like Baldy, and someone bought me, one of the students left now, but like she bought me, she goes, "Oh, you're pressing us a bit." It's like this hair growth.
Oh no! You're like,
so, right, okay,
yeah.
She found it funny, so it's for me that's really important. That's a way of engaging. That's engagement.
Yeah.
Of connecting. So that's really important, and also modelling to young people what is appropriate and what's not appropriate, right? Things you can say, things that you probably can't say. Yeah. So that's a really important thing. I think that sometimes we're in a privileged position here as is that we're not school. School. No. This is the thing. We don't work in schools in the mentoring, right?
Yeah.
And the reason we don't is because we strip away the demands. But as soon as you cross that threshold, there are demands on you. Yeah. Get you a lesson. You have to dress a certain way.
It's time constraints.
Time.
Every minute is accounted for.
Yeah. Right.
Stress.
So, and again, a young person taught me this. I worked with a young lady. She had a delay in a mild learning disability, and would get really angry in the class and smash the class up. So, and it's the first young lady I'd ever worked with. She was 8. And I was saying, well, does she run? Because she didn't look like me. I said, I can't imagine chasing that child down a road as like a middle-aged man chasing this child going, stop. Get him off me. She didn't say anything, right? Yeah. So I've always had a thing about people that run. I was like, do they
flight
run?
Risk, yeah.
Flight risk. And we did a lot of work out in the community. We used to find a park with sand. We'd play in the sand and do all of that sort of stuff. And I used to work out of a Tesco's. Used to take them for breakfast. And so the staff knew me in there, and I didn't realise I was so precious about stationery. So I just bought a new pad and some colouring pencils and stuff. She went, "Can I go on your pad?" And she flipped over the first pad, and then she scribbled the first page, next page, and she just kept doing it, and I could just feel myself inside. I was just like, "Oh, that's really nice," but inside I was like, "Oh my God, right, she's doing every page. She can do every page." Yeah. And then I bought some toast, and then she just threw it over her shoulder, and everything was to try.
What, the toast or the notepad?
Toast, the toast. Okay. So the notepad was still there with about 20 pages done, and she's just looking at me to challenge her to do something, and I was like, right, this could set up. This was the first couple of sessions. This could set up exactly how we work, and I don't want it to work this way. And I said, we'll have to pick that up at some point, and just shrugged her shoulders at me, and then we went back to think. I said, can I draw with you? And so, because you do drawing, don't you? Mm-hmm. So you must have heard of the Winnicott doodle,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So we did a little bit of that.
Yeah.
We did a little bit of that. And, it's like, can you go and pick that toast up for me? And she went and picked it up. Yeah. And she absolutely, but like if I would have tried to say to her in that moment, go and pick it, the staff were killing themselves laughing, like, 'cause I'm facing them. But luckily it didn't hit anybody or anything else. But, we did a lot of work out in the community. And then when we went in, I said, look, rather than bring him into the class, can we just work in the hall? And there was another young child in there with a staff member, and we built a little relationship with them, and we'd throw a ball. And it was really about just trying to regulate her system inside the school. And so I spoke and acted in a different way outside the school. I didn't realise this. And then the whole SLT come in, and they were observing us. And I changed. And she just looked at me and said, what are you doing? Yeah. She didn't say anything. It's like, why are you speaking to me like that? Yeah. Right, that's about me. I had changed. Yes. And so it's really informed my work and about what happens to anybody that's been in the education system that steps across that threshold. Mm-hmm. What changes in us, right? Know. It's really interesting.
I noticed that when I used to cover a class. Because I was a teaching assistant, and then I cover a class, and I'd change. Because I knew I had to deliver by a certain time, blah, blah, blah. And I wasn't the way I was as a TA or when I was a school ELSA. It's different, and I didn't like it.
No, it's a shift. And it's like, you know, I'm a huge, I know this is a shout out to anybody that works on a reception at a school. You know, you are an invaluable resource as far as
you're the face of the school.
You're the face of the school, and I learned this, you know, working in a school in Bristol, and in an area where none of the kids wore uniform, not because they just couldn't afford it, right? So they come in, you know, different colour shoes and socks, and you know, the staff would meet them. It's like, oh, morning. There was no get them in, you know, get them in and get them engaged. And I watched the receptionist deal with all sorts of stuff, you know, while I was waiting for my young person to come out, or I was waiting to go in, or whatever. And just the power of somebody meeting them in that moment. Hi, how are you? And that child might not have seen an adult that morning. No. They may have got up, not eaten breakfast, chucked their clothes on, and they'd just made it to school in time. Yeah. And to be, or just after the bell, and they've had to come in for a reception, and they're greeted like that. Oh, let me come in, let me go and find someone if I can't take you. And then they take them to the class.
That's the first interaction of the day. Yes. That's what counts. Don't see that all the time.
No, you don't. But I tell you what, when I see that in a school, I tell them.
Yeah.
I tell them, because I think it's absolutely important, you know, that person. And that's a tough job. Like, you've got angry parents, and maybe for real reasons, right? You know, like they're really frustrated that something hasn't happened, or they've promised something. And then you've got stuff there that, you know, that doesn't belong at the reception window. And so I get it. And, you know, it's all throughout COVID, schools were the only things that were open. They're the only, you know, and this is the thing, that receptionist, right, is, you know, you can't get to see a social worker by turning up. You can't get to see a police officer by turning up. You've still got to make an appointment unless there's a real issue. Anything in society now, right? You can't go to the local authority, you can't do any of that. But you can walk into your child's school, and normally you can get, hopefully, but you can, but you'll speak to somebody, right? Yes. You won't be a faceless person or a numbers or call back or leave a message. There's somebody right there that's going to listen. And that's really important. Yeah. And I hope that never changes. Yeah. I really do hope that never changes. But I also hope that they pay their staff more. Yes. Yeah. And, you know, they don't get paid enough.
That's why I'm not TA anymore.
Yes. You know, and listen, I'm not, there are some fabulous schools I've worked in, some, and I still continue to work in them, and fabulous teachers and amazing TAs, right? Yeah. To be a TA now, it is a tough job. You know, I worked in an SEN school as a learning mentor, and, you know, that was tough. Yeah. And you get some challenges. And, you know, that's something I also want to say is we don't team teach. Don't physically touch a child. We've never had to. No. Right. And it's
supposed to be a last resort anyway.
Yeah. You know, we've never had to do that. No. Because you know, they don't have to be here, right?
No. We're not making them. How you work.
Yeah. They don't have to be here. Yeah. You know, and sometimes we don't know what's gone on. No. From when they've walked in. We don't know what's gone on, and so, you know, we have to be mindful of that. Yeah. But yeah, I'm a huge advocate for the receptionist on primaries. If you're doing it and you're every child that walks in there, you are smiling, and I see it. Yeah. Yeah. You know. Yeah.
And it's and like you say, you acknowledge it. It's important to acknowledge it. But I also acknowledge it if I don't see it.
Yeah. Oh yes. I'm not. Yeah. I've seen it, and it's oh, you're greeting me like that.
Yeah. So how are we greeting everybody else?
Yeah.
100%. We're gonna have to stop it there.
Okay, cool.
I've got to go to work. But thank you so much.
No, thank you.
That was amazing. Thank you for your time.
No, thank you.